I described how we went through identifying a problem and used that as a means for creating our business. What about your business?
So it's funny because it's to back it up a little bit. This whole situation came from our lunches, where once a month we sit down and we have lunch and hey, what's the status of the company or how am I doing as a person, and just gleaming business information out of you. And it was like, well, why don't we do a podcast where it's like, well, this information's valid. It could be for everybody else. So in a lot of ways, this is like the supplemental path of this series where it's like, this is what you should do, and this is what I did. This is what I did do. For me, my history has been in constant entrepreneur. Like I first got into real estate in 2002, and if I would have stayed there, I would have been probably a lot more successful than I am at the moment. But the problem was I have a consistent track record of misidentifying people, where it's like you think people have your best interests and they don't, which is fine. That's just the way it is. So I've recently figured out, oh, my internal barometer of people is probably not the best because I see the best in everybody. Mm-hmm. That being said, got into real estate early 2000s, did well, and then that situation failed miserably.
Did you do that to make money, or did you enjoy real estate?
Well, back then I think I was so young and just got introduced to it, and it was like being 21, 22 years old, pulling an all-nighter at a club to go to an 8 a.m. closing at a title company. I thought that was really cool. It was really cool to be early 20s. I mean, this is early 2000s. We're not talking about now where you've got all these young influencer types that can make hundreds of thousands of dollars in the drop of the hat because their media presence. Those opportunities weren't really there early 2000s. So for me to make several $1,000s or $5,000 or $10,000 on a singular transaction in the early 2000s as a 21, 22, 23-year-old, it was obviously about money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I went off to vacation, came back, and my older business partner had basically, changed everything, vacated everything.
Changed the locks.
Well, no, there was no locks. It was home office, and then just the bank accounts were gone, and it was just like, but it was pre-internet for me and it's not like I was so young. And looking back now, if that situation happened now, it's like get a lawyer, sue them, et cetera, et cetera. But I was so young, naive. I was just probably more heartbroken than I said, well, I'm going to go back to college.
Yeah.
That was my first foray into real estate, buying and selling, flipping, and mainly wholesaling. Probably broke into more houses than I ever had because we were primarily looking at the vacant houses. Mm-hmm. You just kick in the back door to take a look at it, to buy it, with permission of the owner, allegedly. But it was an interesting time going to all those houses, but I learned a lot. Fast forward, I did outside sales in Dubai and Doha, and it was a fascinating time. I really appreciate that time because I got to learn life outside the United States. It made me appreciate my time as an American. It made me appreciate being an American just because there's a lot of narratives that we hear here about how bad we are all the time. And then you go to a different country and you live in a different country and you're like, wow, mm-hmm. we're miles ahead.
Yes.
When it comes to diversity, inclusion, loving each other. Even though we hate each other most of the time, we love each other way more than these other countries. But at the same time, being over there, I was there about a year and a half. There's a lot of problems in that part of the world, and it got to the point where I made the decision, was like, if I stay here, I'm condoning this behavior. So I ended my position, I quit, came back to the United States, and a part of me, my career soul, my career drive, whatever got me to uproot and go to Dubai had died. And then I got a job doing. I got a job at a healthy food store. It was like one of those like MyFit Foods, like pre-made meals. And I worked there for a year because it was brainless. It was just happy. It was just being friendly with people. But you weren't really solving problems. You were just having a good time. And after about a year, I was like, oh, I'm broke because I just ate up all my savings from the job I just did. And then, so I reached out to a guy I was in the Marines with. Hey, what are you doing? I see you doing this. He's like, well, I'm actually looking for an office manager in real estate, in my real estate company. So I joined him, and I got reintroduced to real estate, the buying, the selling, the back office, got introduced to the event side of things, and really flourished in that world. But at the same time, it if I join a company either as a partnership or as an employee, I come in with the mentality of all I do. I'm an engine, and I'm going to work there like I'm a part owner. And what ends up happening is they start treating me like a part owner, verbally, emotionally, responsibility, but not financially. Mm-hmm. And eventually it gets to the point where like, okay, this isn't really beneficial to me. So another situation where you get burned a little bit. Fast forward a little bit more, worked at a tech company for real estate, still doing flipping, still on with the business owner. We're still flipping, buying, and still doing real estate. But when I worked with him in that company, my role is a get stuff done kind of guy. We're here, we want to go there, we have no idea how to get there. I'm the guy that figures out how to get there. Mm-hmm. We were talking about in the last episode about the red lights, you know. I'm the guy that can go left, right, up, down, side to side, like very quickly. Mm-hmm. And is it the most efficient? Not at all. Do I have a clue how I got there? Most of the time, no. But I got there. So we built a small studio, and we were with the purposes of organically marketing the company. What ended up happening is we built a community. We built this small studio, and we started doing content. We started inviting outside people to come in and do content. And we built this. I'm truly proud of what we built. We had the largest meetup in North Texas. We had a true community of all these different pseudo influencer types that mm-hmm. we helped elevate. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is the amount of people that have changed their life when it comes to real estate. Like the amount of millionaires that I helped form, at least on paper, so if you go from having no houses to 20 houses, it's like, hey, you're doing pretty good for mm-hmm. yourself. And if you got that knowledge from that content we produced, that's awesome. So I kind of have PTSD when it comes to real estate, but I still have a lot of that knowledge. I still have a lot of those connections, the events. I still do a lot of events in the space. And when everybody was laid off in that company, mainly probably due to COVID, my thought process was like, you know what? I like this media thing. I would like to get to a point where I can rebuild what we built there at Propelio. Mm-hmm. So like what the YouTube channel that this video is living on is my goal of doing Propelio 2.0, but instead of just only being real estate, it's crypto, it's finance, it's credit, it's business, it's building a business, it's all those things, and it can be its own little thing. And because as of a few weeks ago, I was going to call it Real Estate Investor and Entrepreneur TV. And then we had a conversation with Mark Hopkins, Dr. Bitcoin. And mm-hmm. that's a fascinating episode. And it was 3 days before he went to prison. And we got to get his story about why he's going to jail or why he's in jail. And he's not a bad guy. He just, he was doing a thing that everybody else was doing. It's just he did it for the wrong person, and they dinged him on it. And so with that, it's a crypto. Where does that live? Do we build a new channel, or do we just form a new thing? And we're like, okay, well, we need to rename it. You got Google, you got this, you got that. So we called it the merge. So this channel, the merge, is that. And then obviously the Ethernet. Ethernet, not Ethereum. Anyway, long-winded story of how, why do you start this?